What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, April 12th of 2023? Before we get into anything fun, like, share, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go look for us on the socials. Just go search the Alex Cuesta Show. Now, everybody, I have awful news. Absolutely terrible news. David is back. I'm really sorry.
It's actually unfortunate.
We had a really nice 2 weeks. Really nice 2 weeks, Dave.
The real unfortunate thing is that, as you know, my hair is very long now, and my hairbrush broke this morning. So I had to try to make it look somewhat sensible while going into work, and that was not fun.
You work with hands. Poop. Why do you care?
Yeah, but I don't want it to be crazy. The crazier it is, the more of a chance it touches anything.
Well, it's also becoming 90 degrees outside, and this is going to be when you choose to have the Frito Bandito mullet.
100%.
So you do you. You do you. But I want to thank Hack No Cap and Scott Gilligan for jumping on the last 2 weeks, filling in for Dave. Now, Dave, I have a minor issue real quick. We talked about it all fair. I'm bringing it up. I'm pissed. Dave, I have Bud Light sitting in my fridge.
Oh, my God.
And Dylan Mulvaney's asshole self becoming the sponsor. Am I supposed to be a good rightist cultist and not drink it? What are we doing here, Dave? What's your advice?
Just fucking drink the beer if you want, man. I mean, I wouldn't choose any light beer, honestly. I'm not a beer drinker, but still, I wouldn't choose any of that.
I think it's from a party in the winter, and it's just been sitting in my beer fridge. It just needs to go somewhere. But
have we skunked already?
Whatever. It tastes better skunked. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, so before we jump into the show this week, last week's show, when Scott was filling in, we had Sean McBrady on the show. He is the host of the Main Source and Truth podcast, all about bringing the crazy things to light with CRT, trans ideology that's going on in schools, specifically in Maine. So he's done a lot of good work there. Please go give that a listen. Go follow what he does. But this week, Dave, we have a fun show because we like talking to creative people. We're creators here. I'm an author.
In a sense.
I'm an author with a book that's probably never going to get released because I suck at writing it. It takes me forever. But he's someone that if you are into comic books, especially on the DC side, you should know his name. He is Ethan Van Sciver. Did I say your last name wrong? Sciver? What the hell did I just say your last name? Ethan Van Sciver. He is the founder of All Caps Comics. He also is the creator of CyberFrog and former DC Comics artist. What's going on, Ethan? I butchered your last name.
That's okay. Great to be here, fellas. How are you tonight, this evening? It's a beautiful evening.
Doing really, really.
Are we going to release this in the evening? We're just recording this right now. People have to understand this is a voice from the past.
Yeah. This is a voice from the past. By the time it gets to the future, they may be all the wiser to the things that we're saying.
Wow.
I doubt it. Honestly.
Maybe we'll predict something though.
Maybe. I mean, it's pretty easy to predict society lately, to be quite honest. It's all going by script of how the wokies are going to react to things. But you are someone that has a different story on the comic book side, and you have seen kind of, if you're a comic book fan and you're someone that liked, the golden and silver age comic book stuff, and now you look at it now, you have to be looking at it sideways. You came from the DC side. What is going on in comic book world right now? Coming from your end, from someone who was there.
Well, I mean, it's just like everything else. It's gone woke. They have a magnificent way, these wokesters, these lunatics, of infiltrating, taking over, claiming victimhood, and look, we're the only solution to this problem that we just told you exists, and then changing everything, ruining it. And I watched it happen from the inside. I watched all this stuff change. It was called progress when it was happening. We're progressives. Don't you believe in progress?
Of course.
Progress towards what? What are you talking about? Anyway, that's what's happened to comics. They've gone completely woke right now, and people are noticing it. It doesn't mean that everything is unreadable. There's still some decent stuff out there.
Yeah.
My thing with it though is that eventually, if you're reading Batman, you're reading Superman, you're reading Spider-Man, these books that should be for everyone, they just should be for their normal. When I say I don't mean for everyone. They should be for their normal readership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you're gonna get a dollop of woke in there unexpectedly, which you probably weren't hoping for. And you're gonna say, I don't want to see that. I didn't want to see Lois Lane complain about pronouns. I didn't want to read that. But it's in there. Like stuff like that works its way in, and you just realize it's a way of the SJWs, the social justice warriors, who are in comics right now, just reminding you we're here. We have taken this hill.
So were you around for the New 52 at DC? Were you still working at DC when they were doing the New 52?
Yeah, I was at DC from 1998 to 2018. 20 years. Okay, so a nice span. The end of the 90s when comics were in trouble.
Yep.
To when Marvel sold Spider-Man to Sony and then got themselves out of debt by sort of becoming owned by a lot of different parent companies, specifically Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And DC, like a period of health and growth. I think the early 2000s were really, really good. And then right around 2010, 2011, 12. That's when the feminists, that's when you started to see these people arrive and just announce that everything that we'd done before that was working was unworkable, racist, sexist, homophobic, and it needed to be changed. But I was there. 2012, I think, was the New 52. Yeah, so I was there.
All right. So if you look on your Twitter page, if you look on a few of the comic book artist Twitter page, you'll see hashtag Comicsgate on a lot of people right now on Twitter. What is Comicsgate for people that don't know?
So Comicsgate was basically it started out as the revolt of normal people, essentially, against what they were realizing was wokeness in comics. People started to wake up and say, I don't like this. The fans, some creative people, very few, because we like to keep our head down. Most of us like to make a living. We don't like to complain. We just get our scripts and draw. We get our assignments and write, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then also retailers. And really retailers are the ones who really scared the SJWs who had taken over comics, because there was a retailer summit with Marvel Comics, and they just said, look, I don't know what's going on. I've got people coming into the store. They'd seen the Marvel movies. They're looking for Captain America. They're looking for Thor. They're looking for Iron Man. They're looking for the Hulk. And like all of these characters have changed. Like the Hulk is like an Asian kid who loves being the Hulk now. It's stupid. The whole thing about the Hulk is it's like, I don't want to be the Hulk. It's a curse. It's
terrifying.
Yeah, I got to control myself. Well, this kid's like, awesome. I'm the Hulk, man. Awesome. Sweet. So that's the Hulk. Iron Man became a teenage black girl who basically stole Tony Stark's.
Yeah, Ironheart was like his intern or something, I guess.
Riri Williams, like her teacher said, hey, I think you're great. And she said, tell me something that I can't do. Dare me to do. She was like, all right, I guess you'll never be Tony Stark. And she went, and she jacked Tony Stark's technology and, all this stuff, and became super genius, black teenage girl who was now masquerading as Iron Man. Awful, just awful stuff. Everything was terrible. Thor became a woman, and Thor is his name, but
it's literal name.
It's not a title. It's not like you can put on the costume and say,
James Bond. It's not 007.
You're not 007. Thor is, it's like, hey, I'm wearing Ethan's shirt, so now I guess I'm Ethan. No, you're you wearing my shirt. So this woman was called Thor. It was really stupid. And retailers started complaining. They were complaining to Marvel's marketing department, saying, we can't sell this. And the way the comic book industry works is, we, the readers, are not the customers. You guys are not the customers. The retailers are Marvel's customers.
Yeah.
They get in between, you and them. Marvel's only selling to the retailers. The retailers have to sell to you to make a profit. So they're like, we can't sell this stuff. We can't explain what it. And the Marvel's marketing department looked at these poor retailers whose sales were down and just kind of said, we hear what you're saying. We want to let you know, like, we're listening, and what we're hearing you say is that you hate women. But we don't here in Marvel. We see a progressive, bold future of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're going to carry forward with it.
Funny thing is, Ethan, and I want to let people know that the whole entire female Thor was a part of Marvel canon. And the funny thing is, and this is what the SJWs and feminists don't want to hear about this part, though, the reason why there was a female Thor ever in Marvel Comics, and this was a little bit ago, it was a punishment. Odin turned him into a woman because he wasn't doing his job as the god of thunder. He was playing around in Midgard too much. He wasn't up in Asgard doing his job as his son, and it was a punishment. So it's like, and now they're trying to make this empowerment thing, and it's like, no, that was, he was not happy being female Thor. This wasn't a thing that he looked forward to.
That's a dark. That has a whole different context nowadays.
Yeah, it does. It's incredible. And it's like, and imagine that, like, being like, in the 1990s, they maybe could have gotten away with making that movie, right? Like the second Thor, he pissed off Odin. Now he's female, and here comes the female Thor, and now she's doing everything she can to prove to her dad that she's worthy of being his son and not his daughter. Like, now that looks at it, and they're just like, well, that female Thor was better anyway, because she had emotions while fighting. And it's like, no.
Well, nobody wants to read this anyway. And they really don't. I mean, it was, they forced it on fans and retailers. And so when people started to complain, certain voices on the creative side of Marvel and also editors started to call people bigots. And then started to make their politics as extreme leftist known to the customers.
Yep.
And started to call people complaining about all of this stuff. They started to call it Comicsgate because they had just successfully routed an insurrection from gamers called Gamergate.
Yep.
So they tried to say, look, we got rid of Gamergate. Gamergate is now seen as like a harassment campaign against women and trans. They successfully got that narrative out there. So now they tried to do it to shut up fans of comics and retailers, to just shut people up so they wouldn't complain. And they called it Comicsgate. Well, simultaneously, I was out there working at DC Comics, pretty big name, pretty big creator at DC Comics at the time. And I voted for Trump. Everybody knew I was a Republican. But when I voted for Trump and wore a MAGA hat on Twitter, that drove everybody crazy. And then I went to the inauguration and I live streamed myself at the Trump inauguration.
You were asking for it.
I didn't realize it. I didn't realize I was asking for it. I was just like, no, fair's fair. I'm a Republican. I won.
The crazy thing is, Ethan, we just went through 8 years of the left treating Obama as a god. And it's like, nobody remembers this. Like, everyone seems to put that in memory hole, that you had people like in his crowd treating him like Michael Jackson, fainting for him, crying, being nuts at his rallies. Like, don't get me wrong, Trump has incredible rallies, but they were nothing like Obama.
Obama was going to turn back the seas. I mean, let's not forget, Obama was going to turn back the tide and fix global warming.
And it was crazy. And people forget that. So it's like, and you coming in there in 2012, you just experienced 8 years of them treating this dude like the Messiah. He really didn't do much of anything besides create the divide. Everyone loves to give Trump credit for the divide. The divide really started under Barack Obama.
Well, 100% true.
100%.
You had to be there at the time, like within comics, the people that I was talking to, everybody's very political of the left, and they feel free to just say, and they would say, you're never going to win again. Republicans are never going to win again. Demographics are destiny. Latinos are coming into they would say all this stuff. Like, they would talk like with all these racist terms, like white people are disappearing and shrinking and becoming, the minority in this country.
They can't escape their history.
Just ridiculous. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? So, by the way, it turns out the Latinos that were coming in were Cubans, and they're all Republicans.
They don't like communism. They don't like wokeism at all.
Whoops, that's embarrassing. But anyway, so when Trump won, it broke their brains because, again, they truly believed all of this stuff about demographics or destiny. Republicans will never win an election again. And we did. And we won with a guy that they demonized, that they really were pretending to be afraid of. And here I am. So they see me and they decide they're going to come after me, and they start calling me a white supremacist. And they're really giving us a hard time. Like, I remember seeing the white supremacist stuff, racist. He's a bigot. He's a racist. all I'm used to being loved and everything. I'm the Green Lantern artist. I didn't understand how to deal with this. I didn't know why it was happening. My own peers turning against me. They yelled at me. They said I was responsible for the death of my queer comrades in comics by voting for Trump. Like all these gay people were going to die, and it's my fault. Didn't I care? And I said, that's not even a thing. Like, no, I don't. That's ridiculous.
And now we go back 11 years later. They don't care about gay people either. It's all about trans people. Now they don't care. Like you weren't the cause of the death of them. You were like, you didn't do anything. They're the ones that have genocided them.
Right. Yeah. Now it's all like, okay. So anyway, then Jordan Peterson got in touch with me. He wanted me to illustrate his book. And I was afraid to illustrate it because I didn't want to lose my job. I have a daughter. I got remarried. We had a baby. She was diagnosed with autism, and I really needed my job. I didn't want to lose my job, and I was trying to push back. Like DC was standing up for me a little bit, but they were mostly saying, "Be quiet, it'll go away." It wasn't going to go away. They didn't understand social justice warriors. They wanted my scalp, so they weren't going to stop. And I told Jordan Peterson, I said, I'm afraid to illustrate your book. I'm scared, and he just
can't blame you at all.
Yeah, I knew that would be because he was being touted as somebody who hated trans people and all this stuff. And he just didn't want to use their pronouns, made up words. So he said to me, "Oh, Ethan," he said, "you can't let these mobbers back you into a corner." And I still think about him saying that all the time. Like that to me is a rallying cry, like never let them push you into a corner. And I said, "You're right. I'm going to do it." I got DC's approval. They had to read it and they said, "We can't stop you. Go ahead." And I did it. I illustrated his book. And as soon as people saw that my name was on his book in 2017, that was it. They came in, they started writing articles denouncing me and all these press.
And the wild part is about 12 Rules for Life. It is a self-help book. Like that's what people don't realize. And I've read both of them. I read 12 Rules for Life. I read Beyond Order. I think Jordan Peterson, he's a little bit topsy-turvy now, but he's still fantastic. Like his opinions are still great. And his self-help book, like it is and I'm not a person who reads self-help books. They're books that everybody should read. And your artwork was great in 12 Rules for Life.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I lightened it up. It was really fun because Jordan Peterson is just like, this very solemn, serious, like appreciator of, the art and music and opera and class. So what he wanted to do is he just wanted to illustrate each chapter with a work of art, just put a specific work of art there. And his publisher just kind of said, we can't do that. There could be copyright issues, with this. So you can't. So he came to me about it. And I just said, that's so solemn and so heavy and like a little pretentious. So I said, maybe what we do instead is I read this. He gave me the script. I read it, a manuscript. And I just said, you strike me as this book has a fatherly tone to it. Yeah. I said, how many kids do you have? And he's like, I got 2 kids. I got a boy and a girl. I said, okay. This strikes me as you talking to them. So why don't you give me pictures of them when they were 8-ish, 9, 10, whatever, when they're kids willing to take your instruction. And I'm going to draw them into it, observing the works of art. I will have to recreate the works of art, but I will show as though there's this incredible art museum that is your soul, and they're going to be taking a tour to see all the magical works of art. I will draw your kids as like kind of cartoon characters. And I think it added some levity to the book. He really liked it.
It really fit in perfectly. I'm not going to lie. Like, and anyone that hasn't read 12 Rules for Life, or even if you don't have any intentions of reading it, go to your Barnes and Noble and thumb through it because the pictures are worth it. Like they add something. It felt in place. Like it's, sometimes certain things feel out of place. It didn't feel out of place. And then when you read it, it gave it a cool vibe. It definitely gave it a different vibe than what you would be expecting out of a book of that nature.
I think he was
talking
happy
about the hierarchy of lobsters.
Yeah. Like I think he was very happy with it. He said like it did the right thing for the book, and he wanted me to come back for the sequel, but I'm busy with this guy now, so I can't really.
We're going to talk about that guy soon.
So anyway, I got canceled. Okay. And they called me Comicsgate. So these bad guys, these leftists, these radicals who are deeply engaged in cancel culture, using it as a weapon to disemploy and destroy people as a way of saying, they wanted to destroy me because I was very visible. And they wanted to say, hold my head up like ISIS or something and be like, this is going to happen to you. You know, if you don't, like, if you behave like him, this is you. You're next. So they called me Comicsgate, and they basically got DC Comics to call me and just say, we can't. We're trying to sell ourselves to AT&T. We can't have this bad press right now. We cannot renew your contract. And made it so that I couldn't make comics anymore. Like, imagine that. I'm an artist. I'm a critic. Like, I wouldn't be allowed to make comics in the mainstream because anywhere I went, I would be chased out.
Yeah.
So I kind of said, I knelt in prayer with my wife, and I thought I was an atheist. I was raised Mormon, but I stopped believing in God, but I felt it then. We were down in the basement, and like, we're exercising, and I had the same thought at the same moment as my wife, which happens a lot. That's why we're good together. She just looked at me and she said, you want to pray with me? And I said, I was just thinking the same thing, and we've never prayed together before. And we knelt in prayer, and we spoke to God, in a very real and open way, and just asked for guidance. What do we do? And just like humble yourself and say, I know you're there. I've been a bad servant. It's like I haven't been attuned to you. I haven't come to you like this, but like, what do we do? What do we do now? Like, we're listening. And I knew what it was to do. I just knew the next day. And I just announced, hi, I'm Ethan Van Sciver, and I am Comicsgate. It's like, I am Comicsgate. And basically took on that title that was used to slime, you're a part of this hateful thing, this conflict that you hate trans. No, that's not what it is. It's a gateway, another gateway to comics. Okay, that's what the word means now. And, it means we're going to make comics outside of the mainstream. And I'm going to show you how. Me and my friends. My wife researched crowdfunding, which is something we didn't understand. But we realized that through the internet, through YouTube, you watch my YouTube show, you get to know me, you find out I'm not such a bad, listen, I've got a silly sense of humor, but I'm not a bad guy. I'm not what they're saying. You watch my YouTube channels, I'll talk to you about what's going on in comics. I'll teach you a few things, and then I can advertise my comic book on Indiegogo. My wife found out that Indiegogo was better than Kickstarter. Kickstarter had actually blacklisted some conservatives. And we just said, here's CyberFrog, a character that I created in the 90s when I was a teenager and still loved comics so much that he just seemed like the perfect sort of most joyful expression of how I felt about comics when I loved comics and was new to them. And I thought I could bring him back in a new context and tell new, more adult stories about this character. And the crowdfunding campaign, for which we were asking $8,000. I don't know what we were thinking. Like, we would have died if we had made $8,000. It ended up making $538,000 in its first campaign, and then went on to raise, in an extended period of time, our first issue of CyberFrog, $1.2 million.
That's awesome, man. Now, if that isn't verification of what your life's work is, is there anything else like right there, like, you obviously knew you were good at what you did, right? You survived in one of the top 2 companies
better than these
for
people.
20 years, right?
Better.
So you were really good. And and now you sit there and you're on your own, probably terrified, and all of a sudden, boom, confirmation that you're one of the best comic book artists on the planet.
Yeah. And I feel like it's confirmation of that, plus also confirmation that you weren't just a random outcast and you were just thinking about this all wrong. Like, you basically pushed yourself out. No, like, people did not want what was happening in comics, obviously. So it was confirmation that not only are you very good at what you do, but that people resonated with what you were feeling, with the fact of the matter that, listen, what they're doing to the characters that we love are things that we don't want to happen.
Yeah, like there was the energy around what we were doing was beginning to grow. And there are other voices that were in what was now being called Comicsgate in a positive way, who were talking about it. Other people were celebrities, Hollywood celebrities were finding us. Oh, I used to love comics. Something weird is going on. And I found your YouTube channel. And it explains exactly how I feel. We were gathering a lot of momentum. And not only that, I knew a lot of my peers who were also being blacklisted pushed out who were conservatives, Christians, Republicans, and just liberals, regular run-of-the-mill liberals who, like, you know, used to be like normal people who'd be like, I don't know, I think the sky's falling, and I'd be like, I don't think it is, but I understand.
And
like,
which is like interesting because they actually bring an element to comics that's needed, right? Because like you want both sides, you want the both sane sides of the coin, because now you can write comics in a realistic manner. Like you'll write it with that, each character will certainly have and take on that life, and that's okay because you
of course
those.
See, this is the problem. It's not liberalism or leftism that's the problem. It's that shouldn't be shut out of comics necessarily. The problem is that this new breed of progressivism will not coexist with any other viewpoints.
It's Maoist Marxism, 100%.
They will, they shut you out. They destroy you. Comics should be, you know, hey, today I have an idea that, you know, I want to tell a story about why gun control isn't going to work. And that's it. Maybe tomorrow I want to tell a story about why, I don't know. I can't think of anything liberal.
And you know what the thing is? And I feel like the best comics will have like that premise, right? Gun control doesn't work. And then there will always be a point in that comic where the main character that's doing this has a moment where somebody says something to them and brings something up that is legitimate on the other side. And then it really leaves the reader going, I still agree with the protagonist.
Right.
That was a really good point.
See, that's a story. That is
like,
propaganda.
I love that.
The problem is comics have become propaganda. Exactly. It's no longer about a story where, you know, we used to have really responsible storytellers like Annie Nocenti and you know, they would come in and it was clear that they had a point of view, a political point of view, but then they'd also slide in, you know, the conservative point of view in a respectable way that would make me kind of, if I'm reading it and I'm against the liberal point of view, I'd be like, yeah, that's right.
Like,
that's right. Like gun control. Oh, you know, maybe there's, oh my gosh, like guns in the wrong and fall into the hands of kids, blah, blah, blah. And then bad things happen. Yeah, that's a gun control message. But then again, intruder breaks into this person's house and it's like, thank goodness there's a gun lying there and, you know, I'm able to defend myself. Like that kind of thing is.
Or like the subtle thing, like the politician railing against it and then walking by and their security has guns and the protagonist is like, why? But wait, I thought, you know, they would do things like that. So before we keep going, I want you to talk about your newest venture, which encompasses CyberFrog, but all caps comics. What can people expect from there? What do you guys have cooking up? Obviously, CyberFrog is there. What else is going on over there? Nice. That dope hat. I love that hat.
Yeah, we're making all kinds of cool merch and stuff. Where it's great. It's fantastic. We all caps comics. Like it's called all caps because my YouTube channel is comic. See, artist. Pro secrets. So all caps. It also just seems like, hey, we're talking loudly. We're pitching. We want you to hear us. So that's why it's called All Caps Comics. And it's the venture that publishing house that publishes CyberFrog. It's ours. It's me. It's just me and my wife. And then sometimes we'll hire some people over to pack boxes for us and stuff. It's literally a mom and pop's comic shop. We're publishing CyberFrog right now. There's a current Indiegogo campaign called CyberFrog Dark Harvest. And on that campaign, you can get CyberFrog 1, 2, and you can get this new book, Dark Harvest, as well. Pre-order these books. It's crowdfunding. We're not Disney. We don't have a parent company like Warner Brothers. That would ordinarily exclude people from being able to make comic books at all. Where's our money coming from? Like, how can we... Well, we don't have to do that because we can crowdfund and we can go straight to the fans and say, we'd like to make this comic book. And if you'll pre-order it, we can get all the money together and we can make the comic book. And that way we know we're not going to take a loss. We know how many to make and all this stuff. It's a really, really good system. So go to Indiegogo, CyberFrog Dark Harvest. We've also got a book called Rainbow the Brute that I'm working on, which is, I don't know if it's going to be a franchise in and of itself, but I got this idea since I felt like feminists were going in and polluting boys' toy properties, perverting them and making them very strange, like, you know, just weird, making fun of them almost. Like, it seems like these kind of feminist Marxists they have a real problem with G.I. Joe. They have a real problem with Thundercats and He-Man, and they want to destroy them. They want to mock what it means to be masculine. Well, okay. I'm going to go in, I'm going to take all their girls' toy properties from the 1980s, and I'm going to spin them through a high testosterone filter.
That's incredible.
And then let's see what happens. And I promise you, my version is going to be hot, dude. It's going to be awesome. So Rainbow the Brute.
I'm excited for that.
Care Bears are going to be in it. My Little Pony, we call them My Girthy Stallion, these big, aggressive, high-T horses.
Girthy boys.
Yeah. Big, muscular horses that, like, some of them are in the Marine Corps, like the Headless Horseman's horse is in there. His name's Ghost Gallop. Rainbow the Brute's horse is named Nay Palm. I mean, they're just total, like, tattooed and badass. And we've got, basically we're taking all of these, girls' toy properties and really just making this world where a little boy, comes up with these more aggressive ideas for his sister's toys. So that's Rainbow the Brute. You can back that as well. Rain is spelled Reign. And it's on Indiegogo. So we plan on continuing to do this. As you can see behind me on the wall here, I've already got the CyberFrog action figures underway.
I love it.
And we had this idea to be able to take to crowdfund and actually make toys that were as good as Hasbro's. I mean, I don't want to just make cheap, chintzy toys. I want to make the best toys that you can possibly do. So we've got CyberFrog action figures, CyberFrog PVC toys. We're making great T-shirts.
So give us a quick CyberFrog premise too for people listening, because people want to know what CyberFrog's about.
In 1996, there's a planet called Perdani, and Perdani is the only planet in the universe who has survived this attack by this invasive species called the Vespis that look like gigantic alien hornets. Okay. And these hornets are very successful. They go from world to world, colonize, destroy, take over. And they're going to be very successful. They're heading to Earth. And Perdani decided that they're going to send an agent from their world with the ability to turn back that invasion. Because once they land on Earth, they're going to be unstoppable. The atmosphere, the oxygen, it's going to make these creatures have their, be able to regroup. So they send CyberFrog and they send Salamandroid to planet Earth, connected to their mother ship, who represents kind of the internet, who, speaks to them and everything like that. CyberFrog goes to Earth and he finds that the humans don't like him very much. They don't trust him. They don't like the way he looks. But he's still there to fight the Vespis, which arrive in 1998, right during Bill Clinton's apology speech to America, August 16th, 1998. He's apologizing for lying. The Vespis arrive, shut down his speech, and destroy the Earth. They have a unique ability to hypnotize people so that they don't want to fight back, and they just lie down. The military doesn't do anything. Wow. Humanity just crumbles. CyberFrog tries to push back, but they've already anticipated his mothership. They take her out. This all happens in the first issue. And then they quickly just get rid of him. They kill him. Okay. And he ends up kind of going into a sleep, a deep sleep for 20 years. He wakes up in 2018 in Philadelphia in the Schuylkill River, pops his head up and sees that Philadelphia has been completely taken over by the Vespis. And the world just doesn't look like it used to look. He finds his friends, what's left of humanity. They're hiding in the woods. And now he's got to regroup, and he's still got it in him. They told him, you have everything you need within you to turn back this Vespis plague. You can do it. So that's where we are now. That is the current book, which just is being shipped today. CyberFrog 2, Wrecked Planet, awesome. As you can see. It's getting great reviews. What can I say? Look at the beautiful. I love it. FAW say they want to see themselves in comics, so I put a mirror here. There you see yourself, all right?
So the important question for me is, what are CyberFrog's pronouns?
Frog self. Did you see that girl who's like, I'm a frog and call me frog self or something?
Can you please put her in the next one of CyberFrog and just have like CyberFrog decapitate her? Like
CyberFrog will never hurt people.
But she's not a person. She's a frog.
She's a frog. That isn't true. So I think he would see through that pretty quickly. And he'd say, you're a person and I'm not a frog and I'm not going to hurt you. But
here's the thing. And what is missing in current comics is exactly what you're doing. And people like you are so important to, this culture war that's going on, right? We have people like you. We had Josiah Rises on with Epic First. We're having Epic Mike on later, and they're doing cultural stuff. Obviously, Eric July with Rippaverse. I have George Alexopoulos' kids book behind me, and a lot of people who just aren't woke, aren't leftists, making stuff that's just normal, creative, and fun. Like you're poking fun at Bill Clinton a little. You're poking fun at the feminists in your newest thing.
I'm not even poking fun at Bill Clinton.
Well, he's existing and he's the reason why murder happens because he's a cheating bastard.
No. It's incidental. It's a moment in history. I wanted to ground it. This story is not overtly political like that. It just isn't. It's took place in the 90s. Bill Clinton's the president, and this opportune moment when, for me, like what it represents, Bill Clinton admitting that he lied to the American people. I don't know if you were around then, if you remember this. I don't know how old you guys are.
I was 10, and I do remember it, though. I do remember the whole... My father is extremely political. I was raised a Rush baby, so I certainly knew about things going on. I
was born in 96.
You were 2. So David does not know anything about that time.
So Bill Clinton got caught lying. And you have to understand that happens all the time now, okay? Yeah. But it really didn't happen before, where the president was forced to admit that he lied. You have no idea. You want to talk about breaking liberals' brains. That broke their brains. And
only Nixon was a liar as a president, no one else.
That's right. I mean, this is a guy who said, well, Nixon said, I'm not a crook. He didn't even admit that he lied, So it's like Bill Clinton had to admit that he lied and he misled the American people. And from then on, liberals were just like, this guy lied. Bush lied. Kids died. Everybody lied. And they started accusing everybody of lying when it would just be like, maybe they were wrong. You know what I mean? Everything became a lie. And I started to notice this. This was like my awakening into politics, was going, no, Bill lied. Like, that's not what a lie is. Being wrong is not a lie. You guys are just mad that your president was caught lying and had to admit it. So that moment to me was important. And that moment to me was kind of a political awakening as to the nature of leftists, who are very much like a swarm of angry alien hornets, which is basically what the book is about. So
all I got out of that is it's Bill Clinton's fault.
Like stuff like that may have happened before in history, but I didn't know it. I wasn't aware of it. I really saw it clearly then with 2020 vision. I saw like what was going on, and I saw the dishonesty of how people react to their favorite politician, their favorite world leader, like getting caught. Like I thought it was so weird and so unfair. No, he lied. It's okay. He lied. We're human. But it really did break them for the next 10 years. Everything that they said was, Bush lied. Bush lied.
It's so funny. He lied about having sex in the Oval Office, which was like celebrated when JFK did it. So he didn't even have to lie about it. Like, honestly, the dude did not have to lie about it. So I want to jump on to the next thing, because right now you're in the comic book space and you're doing some real good creative stuff. But Dave and I both also are anime manga fans. Big time. And I don't think it's a secret right now. Manga and anime as mediums are picking the shit out of the comic book space, out of even the comic book, the movie space. Like, yeah, Hollywood movies are big, but the release of Demon Slayer on movies, the Dragon Ball Super movies, have all been like massive successes. What do you think is the reason why kids like me, David, like my generation, is now looking at it and like, I can go read something from DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, whatever. But instead, I'm going to go pick up, the most recent volume of Demon Slayer, Alice in Borderlands, like so many other different manga.
I don't know, because I'm not of your generation. What I know is that when I was a kid, I was introduced to the Super Friends through on the Saturday morning cartoons, the Superman movie. I was introduced to the first Star Wars trilogy. I was introduced to, and I found comic books that way, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And so these American heroes were imprinted on me in a way that manga never was. So I didn't see manga. I didn't see anime. There was some Robotech, I think, when I was a teenager.
Probably
Voltron,
Voltron, Akira, and stuff like that. Gundam, yep.
And I loved it. I thought that stuff was great, but it just didn't have the impact on me that Superman did and that the X-Men did.
Yep.
So that was my generation. And I think something happened where we lost you guys. I don't know how it happened. I have some guesses. I could point the finger of scorn and blame on all kinds of people, but like the Western comic book industry failed your generation somehow and lost you along the way to Japan.
Yep. Yeah. And I think we've talked about this before, Alex, but I think the biggest issue is actually something that you're kind of basically trying to solve in a way with Western comics, is that manga itself is just a dog-eat-dog world out there. It's just a marketplace where, you know what, you have an idea and you're able to push it. They'll take a chance on you. They'll see if it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. If it sells, it sells. That's how it works there.
It just seems that way with something like Chainsaw Man. It's like,
that's crazy.
It's so good.
That's crazy. And it's,
exactly.
But it's so interesting. It's so original, and it worked, It's so, I like that. I got to admit, I respect what the Asian market is doing, but we gotta Americans invented comic books.
Exactly.
It's like,
that's the thing.
This is our art form. We have to do something to compete.
Yeah, certainly. And here's one of my observations that I think a lot from my generation will do too is, the difference between comics and manga big time is how many different versions of Batman are there? How many different versions of Superman, Green Lantern, Spider-Man, all of our favorite. It depends on the new storyteller of that time. And now people can argue, well, this Superman was stronger than that. Where in manga, the mangaka, the creator, the illustrator, that is their property. I know, I'm a Dragon Ball fan. I know that Akira Toriyama is Dragon Ball. Right now he has someone else illustrating with him because he's old, but that Dragon Ball is his property. And, things can't be said the same. Like the story is told from one person. It's very easy to follow these stories. It moves from arc to arc to arc. And when the story's done, for the most part, it's done. No one else picks it back up. And there is kind of, I think, where a lot of my generation, which is a much more to like move on from this to that, to this to that pretty quickly generation. Once the story's done, we can be fulfilled. We get nostalgic about that. But then we move on to the next thing, where American comics have been doing the whole entire shift. And now we're seeing also the shift, not necessarily being different versions of the character that we loved. Like every Batman, even if they were different, still was a similar style Batman. They were still vengeance. They were still this, but now Batman is the billionaire that everyone needs to be like, though. He needs to have the same problems we do. So instead of just discussing about the fact that bad guy bad, I punch bad guy, I figured things out, we need to go into a whole entire thing about his anxiety and depression and regret over what he did to that guy that night. And it's like, no one gives a shit about that. And so, and that's the big issue.
Well, it's not only that. There's another thing that goes on with what you're talking about here, and it's impossible to really have, because a character like Batman has to live longer than the lifespan of Bob Kane. It's just or whoever. I hate to say Bob Kane, Bill Finger as well. Unfortunately, that seems to be the case with American comics, where it's like George Lucas is Star Wars, and the minute he stops being Star Wars and hands it off to somebody else, it becomes garbage. Walt Disney dies with him. Essentially, it becomes something else, and it can still be a big, multinational corporation full of huge IPs. But what made it so lovable, what made it catch on, and what made the memories for most people happen during the lifespan of that original creator.
Yeah.
So Stan Lee's gone now. Stan Lee passed away. And all of his characters have fallen into the hands of this evil corporation, Disney, that is now doesn't have whatever it was that Stan Lee had. J.R.R. Tolkien is gone.
Yep. Jack Kirby is gone. Yep.
Jack Kirby's gone. They dare to continue writing like Lord of the Rings stuff, outside of
No, it's not Lord of the Rings stuff. Rings of Power is not a Lord of the Rings property. Fuck those people sideways, okay?
You understand that's the problem though. That right there is the problem. Like Game of Thrones, HBO dared to complete the story. You know what I mean? Without George R.R. Martin. Like he's sitting there like, he's a fat, depressed guy. I get it. He's like, oh, I'm working on it. Okay. And people are like, why aren't you getting the book?
And it took him so long to create the original books. That's what they're like trying to rush him. Like it took him years to write.
Let him finish the fucking relax. Let him do the book on his own pace. It's going to be great. It's going to live forever. It's going to last forever. But they're picking on him. And then HBO goes and finishes his story and apparently not in a satisfactory way. Awful. And now, when do you think you're going to get this completed book from the next book from George R. R. Martin? The guy's got to be eating himself to death now. Like they literally ate my lunch. What's the point now? Am I going to write I'm going to write something completely different? And they ruined it. They killed
his fans will read it and love it. Now, I want to ask you, would you consider doing something in that Japanese way where you write CyberFrog, you tell CyberFrog's story, and then it's over on to the next one? Or are you still a little more in the American comic mindset of CyberFrog's kind of going to have his story told in infamy as long as you can?
Well, that's infamy. I think
I was going to say infamy.
Yeah, forever. No, CyberFrog. Like I would consider the CyberFrog is going to be 4 installments. CyberFrog Blood Honey, the first one. Wreck Planet just came out. The next one, which we're launching July 4th, CyberFrog 3, Red Extermination, and the fourth book, CyberFrog 4, The Green Supremacy, is going to close out the movie of the first arc of CyberFrog, right? And then CyberFrog 5 is going to happen. So, I see them as movies. So, I mean, I will do at least 8. And I want to keep doing it as long as I can, because I have a lot to say about this character and this world that I'm building here. And I want it to be a real place. I'd like it to be something that can become a movie, a TV show, something. I'd like to hand it to my kids. Yep. It's Comicsgate, so I want it to belong to the people who funded it.
Yeah.
I want it to be like, look, I'm never going to give this to Disney in my lifetime. I'm not going to let them ruin it. We built it together. Mm-hmm. You gave me $25 every single time I asked you for it. And it belongs to you too. I mean, not literally, understand, but in a spiritual way. It belongs to you too. And, we can't let it be ruined by these people.
Please make sure the Van Sciver estate is nothing like the Tolkien estate and does not destroy your name when it's all said and done. If you could tell, I'm pretty salty. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan.
It is crazy
about what they did.
It's crazy, but it's got to be entrusted to my son and my daughter. Anyway, I'm building this. I don't believe in necessarily going around and just doing a bunch of little things. I want to build one thing.
Yep.
What did George Lucas do other than Star Wars? Willow? I mean, he helped with Indiana Jones, but I think that's mostly Spielberg at this point. Mm-hmm. Star Wars is what matters, and he should have just devoted his life to Star Wars, and that would have been enough. And I think he did for the most part, right? I mean, for the most part, it was all Star Wars. For me, CyberFrog, the rest of my life.
Yeah, which is great. And the thing is, we talked a lot about basically what are the pros and cons of the Western style of comics and the Eastern style of manga, where manga finishes the character while the Western style, they continue the character. And the thing is that it's not, there's a slight con there because some arcs and some runs cannot go as well as others, but there's usually a difference that still captures what the hero or the person is. It still captures their style. It just gives them a different story. And I feel that was definitely lost at one point.
Well, in American comics, it'll be like Batman, and Batman is a character that's interpreted by 300 different artists.
Yes.
And the artists are they become, how much you love that Batman story is attributed more to how you feel about the creative person who produced it rather than the character himself anymore. We all agree we like Batman, but there's some Batman that's not very good, and some of it. So with CyberFrog or anything else, it's like the American comic equivalent of that mistake would be me saying, all right, I'm gonna let this other guy do another CyberFrog story. That's he's gonna do 8 issues of CyberFrog. You know what I mean? That's over here. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna hire somebody else to do 20 issues of a different CyberFrog. And your mileage may vary. It's really going to depend on. So if you like CyberFrog, it's going to be by me. 98% of it will be by me. I'm going to have some people do little short stories and things like that for fun. But for the most part, it's going to be by me, just the same way Walking Dead is by Robert Kirkman. And if somebody else were doing the Walking Dead comic book, it wouldn't be the same. Yeah.
So can I request that we are pirate radio guys in CyberFrog and we get eaten by the swarm? I would love to be like some pirate radio guys in the middle of the woods that get caught and eaten by the swarm.
That's a good idea.
Like you can change our name, just make it our likeness, make him like the Frito Bandito, and just have us get eaten by the swarm. I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's what I want my role to be. So
you want to survive. You don't want to. You want to live through this.
How about we are about to get eaten by a swarm, and then here comes CyberFrog to save the day?
Yeah, there you go. That's much better.
Boom! I love it. I love it. There you go. Sneak peek, everybody. But so I want to talk a little bit more before we jump out of here about the actual culture war stuff, because obviously, for better or worse, you're now entrenched in it, right? Like, and you're a main figure and someone that is going to be really important for this culture to kind of shift back from a crazy progressive leftist view to a just entertaining, normal, anyone can read this and enjoy it. And it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's not freaking meant to be. What do you feel about the way Mario, Puss in Boots 2 has just blown the doors off anything Disney has done lately?
Well, I think that both of those, first of all, Mario in particular tended to just try to represent the video game. I mean, it tried to say, this is what the fans of Mario want. This is what they expect. And then there are quite a few fans. And Puss in Boots, from what I understand, I mean, it's, what is it, the 10th highest grossing. It isn't woke, it's
fantastic.
So, movie. This is good. People don't want to be preached to. They don't want to be lectured to. They want an honest and true representation of the property. They don't need to see themselves. They've already seen themselves in it. This is the thing, this lie that people need to see their skin color, their gender represented on the screen is a lie. That isn't true. These properties are popular already because people saw something in it already that they could relate to, or that fascinated and interested them,
or that they want to be something they aspire to be like.
Perhaps, perhaps it tapped into some kind of like a power fantasy. This is what superhero stuff is all about. But whatever it is, they've already decided that they like it. These properties work because they connect with people on a level that is so much more profound than what somebody looks like. And it's astonishing that this is the message of the progressive left.
It's ridiculously shallow.
It's
takes
not
the human element out of it.
If you know their history, it's not. Progressives have always been about skin color, identity, segregation, slavery. It is quite literally their wheelhouse. So it's like, it is surprising, I guess, in this day and age that they're getting away with it. I guess it's more the fact they're getting away with it. Now, I just remember really quick. I just remember being told all the time by liberals in education that it's not about skin color. It's about what makes us the same. And that's the message that that's the liberal message that resonates with me. That the reason why people love these characters is because we all bleed the same red, and then we're all the same inside to some degree. It's like we all have the same hopes and desires. We all want our families to do well, and all these things that we all suffer. We all make mistakes, but we try to keep going forward.
That's the stuff that makes these stories work, and it has nothing to do at all with skin color or your identity. And they're going to find that. I think it's a dark satanic message that I think they're pushing.
And and in the end, and if you want to include a different identity of a character, make an original one that's interesting and good. It can be done. You can have a gay character, a trans character. One of David, he introduced me to a manga, Alice in Borderlands. One of the main characters in Alice in Borderlands is a male to female trans character. And she's really important in the story, but it's not something that they make a big deal all the time. You know that they give you the background story, and then they're just another character in the story, and you're invested in them surviving, in them doing well. So it can be done well. Now, I'm curious, going back to your DC time. When you were about to, illustrate on a run, right, with, some of the creative people, did you guys ever meet and kind of find out, because you're obviously drawing these panels, right? So you're going to know what dialogue's going on in order on how to draw and make it seem as if dialogue is matching what the actions are, right? Was there ever a time where you were allowed to put in your input on some of the things, and as it was starting to get to a certain level of I'm drawing and they're saying, what the hell's going on here? Were there any times where your input was kind of included? Wait, no, this is not what, this isn't what the Lantern would say here. Were you to that point, or was it kind of you kind of had to do and draw whatever you were told to in that sense?
There were times when, I'd work with Jeff Johns and his stuff was so good that my job was to make it better, but represent what he said. I see a visual theme in this script that I don't know if you are aware of, and he'd be like, he'd pretend he was aware of it, but he wasn't. That kind of a thing. But there are other things where you're working with writers who are less experienced, and my job would be to sell maybe sometimes clunky dialogue with the behavior of the character who's speaking it. It's so there's a lot of that. Now, my own input would happen if it did happen before the story was even written.
Yeah.
So I would, be able to talk to Jeff and say, I got this idea. What do you think of this? And it would get incorporated into the story perhaps. Or DC would come to me and say, somebody has this idea for this other Lantern Corps. They're always ripping off our own ideas. Can you make it work so it seems like it's one of yours? And I remember that happened. I was like, this one dude, he's just like, I want to create the Phantom Lanterns. And I'm like, okay. And he's just like, I need a symbol that looks like yours. And I go, great. Okay. So
I like mine.
so that it fits in with the other ones that you created, because I created all the lantern symbols. Yeah. So,
and for those that don't know, you also are the creator of Atrocitus, the Red Lantern. One of the most important big bads in the DC universe.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I'm fighting with this guy. He's just I'm like, so what does the Phantom Lantern ring do? And he goes, so when you put it on, you can choose to be any one of the lanterns on your spectrum. And I'm like, well, all the lanterns basically do the same thing, right? I mean, essentially the rings, if you could choose to be any one of those lanterns, why the hell would you choose to be anything other than a Green Lantern? Yeah. Because the Green Lantern ring works the best. It works based on your willpower. Everything else requires you to be a little mentally ill in order for the ring to work. They're all powered. They create constructs. The constructs are different colors. You get to wear a different looking uniform. But essentially, the rings all make constructs. They make solid light objects that you imagine. The problem is, the Red Lantern ring, you have to be insane with anger and rage to make it work. It's like the Orange Lantern ring, you have to be filled with avarice and greed, compassion. You have to just give away everything you own in order to make the ring work. It just seems like you'd want to be a Green Lantern all the time.
He was going for omnipotence without understanding what they all represented.
Right. I'm just like, why? And he got so mad at me. And by the way, he ended up being one of the guys who wrote to cancel me. I'm like, I was just like one of the guys who was joined up, I don't want to work with Ethan. I'm like, that's not what anyway, DC would come, Phantom Lantern. And I feel like the editors called me in that scenario to sit on the phone with them and him and discuss Phantom Lanterns. And because they didn't want to tell him his idea was stupid and they wanted me to do it for them, and ended up being kind of awkward. I'm just like, let's come up with some other thing. No,
oh my
he can
God.
be anyone that he wants to be. All right.
So you like,
and I didn't have to draw the book, so I was.
That's good. That's
you were
good.
good there. So right now, again, you're entrenched in this culture war space. I think what you're doing is really important. I think the fact that you took the leap of faith, have all caps, doing CyberFrog, doing Rainbow Brute, like having original ideas, is really important to kind of bringing things back to sanity. How else do you see, what else can people do to contribute to, outside of purchasing your product as well? And everyone should go support Ethan. What else can people do in order to help win this battle in the visual art space?
Well, I mean, again, we have to make stuff and it has to be good. I mean, that's the thing. We have to tell stories. We have to make movies. We have to make television. Comic books are easiest. Don't think anybody can do this. We've seen some pretty rotten comic books come out of the indie space.
I sure as hell can't draw, so
yeah, it isn't for everyone. But like, if you can do it, it's the cheapest, and you should. The important thing is to get stories out there that are not woke, that people will possibly like, and maybe try. Maybe the next Stan Lee is out there. Maybe the next who's the person who writes and draws Dog Man, and these books in the YA novel sphere that are so Raina Telgemeier, culturally profound. The next J.K. Rowling could be out there somewhere, and we want to find these people and encourage them to actually make art and do something that could change the culture, because otherwise. All of our big cultural touchstones are currently captured and owned by these big woke corporations that are acting on behalf of, DEI, ESG.
I say DIE. Die.
I know DIE.
It kills everything. Die.
Diversity, inclusion,
equity.
Diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm sure they meant to say the other way around. It says die. Wait.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. So we can't let ourselves be slaves to BlackRock and to all
Vanguard and all that. Yep.
Yeah. We have to be independent, and that's why I say CyberFrog. It belongs to the people. It is, just like hopefully other people who are in this space who are creating things. Do not sell out. Do not sell your IPs to these companies. Do not let them pervert them. Do not let them, use your ideas to promote critical race theory or any of these garbage, poisonous concepts.
Yep.
I need people to support us. I need people to support us. I need you to consider, if you're somebody out there who's watching this and you're like, how can I help? I need you to consider not going to go see the new Disney movie. Don't go see Little Mermaid, except she's black this time. Don't do it. Don't give them your, $15 a ticket plus popcorn plus soda.
Say probably more.
I don't even know what it costs. Haven't been.
I think like a family of four, it's got to be like $150, almost $200 to go see a movie right now.
Holy cow. Take that money instead and invest it. Go to comicsgate.org. Find any one of these creators that's listed there. cgnow.net, another site. And please give it to some of these creators instead, and encourage people, make it possible for people to make comics that are not woke. Okay. And that's what I would say. That's what everybody can do at home. People who are not everybody's an artist, not everybody's creative. Support creative people that way. Go back CyberFrog Dark Harvest on Indiegogo.
Yes.
I promise you it's good. You're going to really enjoy it. It's okay for your kids. The Vespis, they change human beings' blood into honey to feed their young. So there's a little bit of Indiana Jones level gore in there.
Yeah.
But it's there's no bad language. There's no sex. It's okay. It's good. There's actually moments of prayer in the book, which I think are helpful right now. So I just I hope that's what people do. And just support people who are trying in this indie space, which is called the Iron Age by some right now, to make their own stuff.
So if I'm a young aspiring comic book artist, I wrote a comic, would I be able to share it with you? And if you like it, Would it be something that potentially All Caps would be interested in starting to bring other things into the space? Or
no, that's not the way it works. Yeah, I don't want to. Everybody has to be on their own. We're a series of interlocked. We're arm in arm. We're a series of
support each other type of thing.
Yeah, I don't want people like I have to. Unfortunately, I have to hire colorist letter. I have to pay people work for hire. Yeah. I don't want people to be indebted to me. I don't want to have contracts with people that it's like, I'm publishing your book. I don't want to do that. I have a couple of situations like that with some friends, and I'm trying to get out of them because that is the opposite of what I want to do. I want people to be independent, creating on their own, publishing on their own. Because if I can do it, and I'm a dummy, if I can do it, you can do it too. And
that's why you have your wife involved, though. That's why you have your wife involved to make sure that it goes smooth, right? Anyone that's married knows that's why you get your wife involved in these things, right?
Yeah, I couldn't do it without her at all. Not at all. Not for a second. So she's, but I mean, that's the thing. We want people to just be able to do it. And what we'll do is, join Comicsgate, use the hashtag, meet other comic book creators, and shout them out. They'll shout you out on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever it is. And the idea is the internet. We can speak to potentially 7 billion people.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting the word out. Yeah. So that's the plan.
All right. So Ethan, thank you so much. This was lots of fun, man. Just picking your brain and learning a lot about the industry.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you, fellas.
It was awesome.
Absolutely. So once again, he's Ethan Van Sciver. He is the founder, and I said it right this time. He is the founder of All Caps Comics. He is the creator of CyberFrog, which you heard about today, and he is a former DC Comics artist, but that isn't the important part. Go support what he's doing now. Go on Indiegogo. Go to Cyber. Actually, Ethan, I'm going to let you say it better yourself. Where can people find you? Where can people exactly find your work? Where can they go again?
You can find me at Ethan Van Sciver on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube, Comic Artist Pro Secrets, a separate word there. So Comic Artist Pro, one word, Secrets. Just look up Ethan Van Sciver. You'll find my channel. Subscribe to it. And then if you want to support the next issue of CyberFrog, which you do, trust me, you definitely want to get on board CyberFrog. Get a copy of Blood Honey, get Wreck Planet, and get Dark Harvest. Get ready for CyberFrog 3 Red Extermination. These are big event comics. Go to Indiegogo and look up CyberFrog Dark Harvest, and you'll find the campaign with everything on it. You can click, and find out all my other campaigns. Rainbow the Brute, you'll be able to find, and you can even get a hat.
I'm excited for Rainbow the Brute. I'm really happy to hear about that. I'm actually, CyberFrog is awesome. Rainbow the Brute sounds amazing.
He's a big Irish drunk. Rainbow the Brute.
Even better. Yeah.
Picture Popeye with an Irish accent and a sword called Grass Blade. Little action figure come to life. He's a lot of fun. And yeah, I think people are really going to enjoy that. We can do anything here. That's what's great about it. There's nobody to tell us no. Creative imaginations are running rampant, and that's just how we like it in Comicsgate.
Awesome. And we fully support what you're doing there. We love what you're doing with All Caps, and we will always shout you guys out. However, however much that you need. Dave, before we jump out of here, anything you want to say?
Best time to be a creator. If you have an idea, go for it. Worst that could happen is it fails. And of course, like Ethan said, if you want to see people be able to be creative, go and support as much as you can.
Yeah, anything, even word of mouth. If you can't buy one of their comics right now, if you cannot do that, if you cannot financially do that, and you just happen to hear Ethan talking on this show, go tell someone else that might be a fan. Like, hey, I heard this guy. Stuff sounds cool. I heard the premise. Go see if you like it. That helps. Just to get people intrigued helps. So please go do everything you can. Once again, it's the Alex Cuesta Show here. Thanks for listening. Like, share, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating. Spotify and iTunes, like I just said, spread us word of mouth. The biggest way podcasts grow is by you guys, the listeners, telling people, hey, some psycho-ass conservatives are coming on the show talking stuff. Go listen to them. They're cool. And go find us on the socials, the Alex Cuesta Show. We will be back again next week. Everybody, maybe David won't be here again, and we can have a good show. Hopefully. All right, everyone. Talk to you guys later. Bye.